The gates of Mercy Memorial Hospital gleamed like polished ivory under the noon sun, tall, white and spotless. Behind them, people in designer coats walked fast, as if time had a price tag. And just a few feet outside those gates sat a little black girl with no shoes on. Her name was Amara Cole, 10 years old, skin the colour of wet earth after rain. Her hair was coiled, uncombed but soft-looking, the kind of hair someone used to care for before the world got too loud. She sat cross-legged beside a rusted tin cup, humming to herself, a song with no words. Just a sound that felt like waiting. No one stopped for her. They never did. Nurses passed by, patients too. The kind of people who looked away, not out of cruelty but out of guilt. Because when you have everything, sometimes the poorest thing you can afford is empathy. But that day someone was about to stop. Someone who didn't believe in miracles anymore, but was about to see one anyway. Inside, the air smelled like bleach and broken hope. Victoria Langford stood by a hospital window. Perfect posture, perfect suit, and a face that used to believe in logic more than luck. At 42, she had built a tech empire, survived a stock crash, and outsmarted billionaires twice her age. But she couldn't fix the one thing that mattered. Her son, Elliot, 8 years old, blue eyes, legs that hadn't moved since the crash that killed his father. Every doctor, every specialist, every cutting-edge machine, all said the same thing. He may never walk again. Victoria had smiled through the cameras, thanked the teams, signed more checks, but that morning, as the sun hit the white tiles, she whispered to her reflection, "Enough, I'm done." But sometimes, the moment you give up is exactly when something starts watching you give up. And outside the hospital later that morning, a convoy of black SUVs rolled down the driveway. Victoria's security cleared the path. Her assistant barked orders into a headset. Then came a sound, too soft to belong in that kind of world. "Ma, I can make your son walk again." The guards froze. The press turned their cameras. Victoria turned too slow, unsure if she heard right. By the gate, Amara stood, bare feet, hands clasped like she was holding invisible courage. Her eyes didn't beg, they just waited. The guards moved toward her. "Ma'am, we'll handle it," one said. But Victoria raised a hand. Wait. She looked again, really looked. And in that moment, something inside her shifted, because for 2 years, people had been offering her treatments. This girl, she offered a sentence. Why did that single voice stop a billionaire's convoy? Why did it sound familiar? Maybe it was the way Amara said it. No desperation, no plea, just certainty. The kind of certainty Victoria used to have before her world fell apart. She stepped out of the car. Cameras followed. Reporters whispered. Sometimes the most extraordinary moments start in the quiet, between the things we think we know and the things we refuse to believe. Victoria Langford had heard every kind of promise before, from men in lab coats with 10-page reports, to healers with trembling hands who swore they could channel light. But this was different. Standing before her was a little girl, no higher than her waist, barefoot, trembling, clutching a dented tin cup that caught the glare of a billion-dollar car's headlights. Her voice had no drama, no begging, no pitch. Just truth, plain and impossible. Victoria approached the girl and said, "What did you just say?" "Ma," she said again, "I can make your son walk." The guards exchanged looks. A nurse watching nearby whispered, "Poor thing, probably hungry." Victoria knelt, slowly, like approaching something fragile. "Who are you?" "My name's Amara. My mama used to sing at that church down the road before she got sick." Her voice wavered, but her eyes stayed firm. "I don't fix people. I just listen. Sometimes the pain tells me what to do." Victoria Langford was not a woman who believed in coincidence, but she was a woman who understood the power of presence, and this child's presence, ragged as it was, carried something steady, unexplainable, grounded. "Where are your parents?" Victoria asked. Amara looked down. "Don't have any." "Where do you live?" She pointed beyond the hospital walls, where the singing stops. Nobody knew what that meant. But for some reason, Victoria felt the hairs on her arm rise. "Ma'am," her driver whispered, "let's not entertain this." But something inside her whispered back, "What if?" Victoria wanted to walk away. She really did. But something about the girl's composure, it reminded her of the soldiers she'd seen on her factory tours, the ones who'd lost limbs but never lost calm. "Where did you learn to say things like that?" Amara shrugged from quiet places. "That's where the answers live." Silence. The crowd waited for the billionaire's reaction. And then Victoria smiled, faint but tired. "You're a brave little liar," she said. Amara's reply came fast. "Then let me prove it." It wasn't confidence, it was conviction. And conviction, even in the mouth of a child, makes the world listen. Victoria turned to her driver. "Give her some money." But Amara shook her head. "I don't want money, Ma. I just want a chance." Her words landed like a stone in still water. Victoria sighed, looked toward the hospital again, that building that had promised everything but delivered nothing. She looked back at the child. "Fine, you have 5 minutes. Tell me what you do." Amara didn't move closer. She just pointed toward the hospital doors. "Not out here. He's hurting in there. I can't hear him from here." Every scientist Victoria had met spoke in data. This little girl spoke in feeling. And somehow, it made more sense. The guards looked uneasy, the reporters looked hungry, and Victoria, the woman who could buy silence with a single call, found herself obeying a barefoot child with no last name. "Bring my son," she said quietly. The staff hesitated. Then the doors opened, and Elliot's wheelchair rolled out, pushed by a nurse. The boy blinked against the sunlight, confused. Amara's expression softened. She knelt beside him, not touching, just meeting his eyes. "Hey," she whispered. "You can hear me, right?" He nodded, barely. Amara smiled. "Good, then we can start." For the first time in years, the boy smiled back. "Before we continue, if you're watching this and believe that some stories deserve to be told, hit subscribe, because here we don't just tell stories, we remember them." The crowd around them faded. Even the reporters forgot to film, because what they were watching didn't look like charity or madness. It looked like peace. A billionaire and a beggar child, standing at opposite ends of life, yet somehow meeting at the same point of surrender. Victoria said quietly, "Tell me what you need." Amara looked down at her tin cup, at the coins people had dropped without looking, then back up. Just a quiet room, and a little time. Victoria nodded once, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel like the one in control. As the guards lifted the hospital gate to let Amara in, the press shouted questions. But Victoria didn't answer, because deep down, something told her that the moment those gates opened, something else did too. Not every miracle walks through doors. Some have to be let in. In the next few minutes, under the sterile white lights of the hospital corridor, Elliot sleeps, his head tilted to one side, a toy knight still clutched in his hand. Machines beep in rhythm, measuring what the doctors say cannot be restored. Victoria stands by the doorway as Amara steps in, quiet, small, but strangely unafraid. "Don't touch anything," the nurse warns. "I won't," Amara says. She sits on the cold tile floor beside the wheelchair, and then she hums. That same melody from the gate, soft, haunting. A tune that sounds like memory itself. The machines, for a reason no one can explain, begin to slow, steady, synchronize. Was it the sound or the silence between the notes? Victoria's breath catches. She doesn't move. Her bodyguards watch from outside the glass, shaking their heads. But Amara's eyes are closed, her head gently sways. She whispers, not to Victoria, not to the nurses, but to Elliot. "I don't fix people," she says softly. "I just listen. Pain talks in colours. Yours has been too quiet for too long." The nurse frowns. This is nonsense. But then, a flicker. Elliot's finger moves, just slightly. Victoria steps forward. "Did you see that?" The nurse waves it off. Involuntary muscle spasm, common in paralysis. But Victoria can't shake what she felt. The air, it had shifted. The room wasn't just still, it was listening too. Amara opens her eyes and looks straight at her. He's been waiting for someone to stop trying and start hearing. If stories like this move you, the ones they say can't happen, take a second. Subscribe. Because in this world, truth doesn't always wear a lab coat. Sometimes it hums. Night falls. The hospital corridors grow dim. Amara sits by Elliot's bed, still humming. Victoria watches from a corner chair, her phone buzzing with missed calls, her PR team panicking about the incident outside. But she ignores them. For once in her life, she's tired of explanations. All she wants is silence. And in that silence, she starts hearing it too. The faintest echo of Amara's song, wrapping the room in calm. Hours pass. The hum continues. A nurse enters to check on the boy, stops halfway. The monitors, they're normalizing. "Normalizing?" Victoria repeats. "That's impossible." Elliot's breathing deepens. His face softens. For the first time in 2 years, he doesn't look like he's fighting to stay alive. He looks at peace. Sometimes the first sign of a miracle isn't motion. It's rest. Amara stops humming. Her voice is raspy, almost gone, but she smiles. He'll sleep now. That's good. Victoria walks closer. How did you... Amara shakes her head. Don't ask how, Ma. Just let him dream. The next morning, Victoria wakes up in the chair beside the bed. Amara is gone. Only the faint smell of rain and breadcrumbs lingers near the window. The doctor walks in, scanning the monitors. His vitals are strong, better than yesterday. Victoria's heart pounds. But nothing changed in treatment. The doctor shrugs. Some nights, the body just remembers what it forgot. She looks at her son's still body, his hand twitching again, this time not by accident. And somewhere deep inside, she feels that unmeasured thing rise, faith. They called it a coincidence. They called it luck. But what if the miracle wasn't in what she did, but in what she undid? Because sometimes healing doesn't begin when you fight the pain. It begins when you listen to it. And for the first time in years, Victoria Langford, a woman who built empires out of logic, felt something logic couldn't name. Hope in the sound of a child's hum. But miracles don't announce themselves, they wait until the world gets quiet enough to notice. It had been 3 nights since Amara's first visit. Victoria hadn't left the hospital since, not because she believed, but because she couldn't stop watching. Elliot's vitals had improved inexplicably. Doctors called it spontaneous neurological alignment. Victoria called it impossible, and yet she kept seeing the impossible every morning. Small twitches, calm breathing, moments that defied logic. Amara came every evening, never with words, always with that same hum. The nurses complained, the guards rolled their eyes, but Victoria let her in, because sometimes you don't need to understand the miracle, you just need to make sure you don't interrupt it. That 3rd night, everything felt heavier. The rain outside had turned to thunder. Electricity flickered once, then twice. Amara sat beside Elliot's bed, her small hands wrapped around his. Victoria watched from the corner, exhausted, hollow-eyed, but unable to leave. "Why do you hum?" she asked quietly. Amara didn't open her eyes, because silence can scare pain, but songs tell it, it's safe to go. Victoria's lips parted. She had built machines that listened to brainwaves, mapped emotions into data, and yet this little girl spoke of pain like it was something she'd personally met. Amara's voice trembled as she continued humming. Her thin shoulders shook slightly, like each note was taking something from her. "Are you okay?" Victoria asked. The girl smiled weakly. "It doesn't hurt me, Ma. It just reminds me." What happens when the healer starts fading to keep the healing alive? Hours passed. The nurses on duty had changed twice. By 2:17 a.m. the only sound left was rain and that small hum. Then Elliot's hand moved, not a twitch, a grip, his tiny fingers wrapped around Amara's palm. Victoria stood abruptly. "Elliot?" The monitors began spiking, not erratic but rhythmic. One nurse ran in, alarmed. "His pulse, it's stabilizing. Fast." Victoria rushed to his side. Elliot's lips parted, his eyelids fluttered open. He whispered something barely audible. Amara leaned in. "What did you see?" she asked softly. Elliot's voice cracked. "A place where colours talk." The nurse frowned. "He's delirious." But Victoria's body went still. She remembered what Amara had said days ago about pain speaking in colours. Amara nodded, tears filling her eyes. "That's good, he's hearing them again." Suddenly the lights above flickered. Once, twice, then darkness. The hum of machines slowed. The power grid inside Mercy Memorial failed for exactly 47 seconds. And in that darkness, something happened. A faint golden hue began to fill the room. Not from any bulb, not from the lightning outside, but from them. The camera, mounted on the ceiling for patient monitoring, caught it all. Amara's small figure, sitting cross-legged beside Elliot, was glowing faintly around the edges. Elliot, still holding her hand, bathed in the same gentle light. His chest rising and falling in rhythm with hers. For 47 seconds, science stood still and something else started breathing. Nurses burst in with flashlights. They froze. No one moved. No one spoke. The glow dimmed as the power returned, and in that instant, Amara collapsed. Her small body hit the floor, limp but peaceful. Victoria screamed, rushing forward. "Amara! Amara, open your eyes!" Elliot's voice, quiet but sure, cut through the chaos. "Mom, she's okay." Victoria turned. Elliot, her son, who hadn't moved in 2 years, was sitting up. His feet dangled off the side of the bed, trembling but alive. The nurses gasped. Victoria dropped to her knees, tears flooding her face. "Oh my God, Elliot, you're..." He reached out and touched her cheek. "Mom," she said, "it was my turn to walk again." If this story already has your heart racing, take 1 second, hit subscribe. Because on Untold Black Struggles, we tell the stories that remind the world. Light doesn't always come from the rich or the known. Sometimes it comes barefoot. By morning, every screen in the hospital glowed with the same replay, the security footage. No editing, no effects. Just a 47-second clip of a boy glowing beside a girl the world had ignored. Within hours, it hit the news. Billionaire's son walks, thanks to homeless black girl. The world is split in two. Skeptics called it fake. Scientists called it electromagnetic interference. Some called Amara a fraud. Others called her a saint. Victoria, a woman who had built her life on logic, now stood before microphones defending something she couldn't explain. She faced the cameras and said only one thing. "I saw my son walk, and I saw love do what medicine couldn't." And that's when the story stopped being about medicine and started being about meaning. The clip went viral. Millions watched. Millions argued, but the only one who stayed silent was Amara. She lay unconscious for 2 days, breathing softly in the same ward where she'd performed her quiet miracle. Victoria sat by her bed now, the roles reversed. She brushed the girl's hair gently. "Why you, Amara? Why would you do this?" The girl's eyes fluttered open. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Because someone once did it for me." Victoria frowned. "Who?" Amara smiled faintly. "A woman who didn't believe until she did." Her eyes closed again, her breathing steady but shallow. By the time she woke again, the hospital hallways were flooded with reporters. The church sent letters, the university called for research rights, but Victoria didn't care. She took her son home, walking, and she took Amara with her. The cameras tried to follow, but for once she said no, because this, whatever it was, didn't belong on TV. It belonged to the silence. Some stories aren't meant to be analysed. They're meant to be protected. That night, Victoria stood by the window, watching her son sleep peacefully for the first time in years. Amara lay in the guest room, her small frame wrapped in blankets too big for her body. Victoria whispered to herself, "How do you thank a child for giving you your child back?" Well, we will find out soon. 3 weeks after that night, after the glow, the cameras, the chaos. The hospital gates are quiet again, but the silence feels different now. Because inside, a little boy is walking, and outside, the little black girl who made it happen is gone. Everyone saw the miracle, yet no one knows where the miracle worker went. What happens when the world finally believes and the believer disappears? And inside Victoria's penthouse, morning light spilling in through floor-to-ceiling glass. Victoria Langford sits by her window, watching Elliot chase a toy drone across the living room. The sound of his laughter, real laughter, echoes against marble and memory. It's been weeks since Amara vanished. The police searched the streets. Reporters offered rewards. Even the mayor made a public plea for her to come forward. But the girl who once sat by the hospital gate never showed up again. Some say she was taken. Some say she ran. Victoria doesn't know which hurts more, that she can't thank her, or that maybe she was never meant to. How do you repay someone who healed your child and then disappeared before dawn? But the news isn't stopping. TV headlines spin across the screen. Billionaire's son walks again. Doctors baffled by miracle recovery. Where is Amara Cole? But the internet doesn't stay kind for long. The story that began as a miracle becomes a debate. Comment sections flood with theories. Was it staged? Was Amara a plant? Did Victoria fake the story for PR? For every believer, 10 skeptics rise. It's easy to celebrate a miracle until it doesn't fit what we believe about who deserves to perform it. And weeks later, Victoria stands before a boardroom of investors. She's supposed to be presenting a new AI project, but her voice cracks halfway through. Her mind keeps drifting back to that little girl, to her humming, to that light. One investor leans forward. "Victoria, what's next for Langford Tech?" She closes her laptop. "Not tech," she says quietly. "Not yet. I owe something first." Later that day, Victoria was walking through the city streets at night. She passes shelters, food banks, and children sleeping on cardboard. For the first time, the billionaire walks through the world that Amara came from and realizes how blind she's been. A homeless woman hands her a paper bag. Inside is a worn ribbon, purple, frayed, but carefully tied. A little girl used to give these out, the woman says. Said it was her way of sharing light. Victoria holds the ribbon like it's gold. Sometimes the only way to repay a miracle is to become one for someone else. And that's why, 2 months later, a large white banner hangs over the hospital courtyard. The Cole Foundation for Hope opening ceremony. Camera flashes everywhere. Press, dignitaries, patients, and in the front row Elliot, standing, smiling, holding a bouquet of white lilies. Victoria steps up to the podium. Her voice trembles, but it's steady with purpose. This foundation isn't just in memory of a miracle. It's in honor of a little girl who reminded us that healing doesn't always wear a white coat. Sometimes it hums at the gate, waiting for someone to listen. The crowd grows silent. Some hold back tears. Even the reporters put their cameras down. Victoria opens a small box on stage. Inside is a folded piece of paper, yellowed, worn, creased at the edges. It's Amara's handwriting, found inside Elliot's hospital file days after the event. Don't thank me, Ma. Just walk with him. That's how the light keeps going. Victoria pauses, then smiles softly. So today, I'm not thanking her. I'm just walking. And maybe that's all Amara ever wanted. Not to be remembered, but to keep the light moving forward. In the back, an old janitor looks toward the sky. A single blackbird swoops down, landing near the podium. It hops twice, then tilts its head, staring at Victoria and Elliot. The same kind of bird that Amara used to feed crumbs to outside the gate. Victoria freezes. For the first time in weeks, she laughs, quietly, tearfully. You made it, didn't you? She whispers. If you're still watching this right now, it means something in this story touched you. And we tell stories like this every week. Stories about pain, hope, and the kind of miracles the world forgets. So before you go, hit subscribe, join us, because someone out there is still waiting for their Amara. And 1 year later, a mother walks through the same hospital gates, her child in a wheelchair. She stops by the statue of a little girl holding a tin cup, placed right by the entrance. At the base, an inscription reads, "She listened when no one else did." The mother kneels. Her son asks, "Who's that, Mama?" She smiles faintly. That's someone who believed. Then she looks up, and for a brief moment, sunlight reflects off the bronze face, almost like it's glowing. Maybe Amara didn't vanish. Maybe she just moved into the hearts of those who kept walking, carrying her light with them. Some stories aren't about miracles you can prove. They're about the people who keep believing even when the proof is gone. Amara Cole may never be found again, but maybe that's the point. Because faith doesn't need a face to keep shining.